What is up, my spooky mates of YouTube? Marcel from Aussie Horror here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at 2008's The Happening, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Now, when this movie came out, it was panned by critics and criticized by audiences, and I think there's two main reasons for that. The first one is the wooden performances, but in reality I don't think they're that bad, and Mark Wahlberg in particular is quite good in this movie. He has such like a likability and a charm to him, although I know some people have said that he can come across as quite smarmy in a way. I don't really see that, but the other reason why audiences and critics didn't like this one is the environmental message and how it's presented in such a ham-fisted manner. So when I saw this one in the theaters when it came out, I was in high school and I saw it with a group of mates and we all really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed this movie even more when I rewatched it recently. The relationship dynamic between Elliot, played by Mark Wahlberg, and Elma, played by Zooey Deschanel, that's sort of like the main relationship in the film, and I'm not going to spoil it entirely, but I can understand why there's criticisms for their performance here, because there's not that much chemistry to the relationship in the start and, you know, going into the middle of the film, but once you reach the conclusion of the movie, their relationship and their dynamic is much more cemented, and yeah, again, without spoiling anything, there's quite a bit of warmth there, and yeah, I'll let you guys watch the movie for yourself, but I was a fan of it, and I thought that Mark Wahlberg is one of those actors that can always carry a film. This is coming off of Mark Wahlberg's nomination for Best Supporting Actor for The Departed, and it was, I remember at the time, I was stoked to see that an A-list actor was the lead in a horror movie. Nowadays, it's not too uncommon for A-list stars to be in horror movies now that the genre has become elevated, and I know a lot of people out there hate the term elevated horror, but we're just gonna have to live with it now. It's part of the lexicon, let's just move past it. Anyways, Mark Wahlberg was great in this. Zooey Deschanel, her performance in the start of the movie seems a little awkward, but that's probably just Zoe and how she acts, and overall I thought her performance was good. John Leguizamo in this, he's not in it all that much, but he is another highlight in the movie. And then there's that old couple that run that like plant nursery. I thought their acting and their sort of dynamic was great as well. The movie has some good kills, it's got some good violence. If like the only thing you really want is the sort of visceral chills and thrills that come with this genre, and M. Night Shyamalan is constantly making incredibly underrated movies. I remember like, I think it was like about the time that The Happening came out. I know it was sort of a meme at the time for M. Night Shyamalan to put twists in his movies. Like there was that Robot Chicken sketch. What a twist!
What a twist!
That just adds to his charm as a director, I think. Another aspect to M. Night's films is that he sort of takes that Stephen King approach where his leads always play likable, relatable characters. Like Stephen King is a master of horror, not just because he's good at writing horror, but he's good at getting you invested into his characters and then putting them in horrific situations. That's why his horror is so effective, and I think that that's why M. Night Shyamalan's films are so effective as well. Like in The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis, that's why that's so effective. Unbreakable with Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson. And some more of M. Night's underrated films. Lady in the Water, if you haven't seen it, definitely worth checking out. And The Village with Joaquin Phoenix, that's another fantastic movie. And that one in particular, The Village, if you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. Oh, and how could I forget Signs, the greatest Mel Gibson movie. I don't know if it's the greatest, but it's definitely up there. Anyways, this is just a quick little video about The Happening, and I think that if you're sort of one of those people that doesn't mind that sort of more ham-fisted approach to environmentalism and those messages that you put in movies, The Happening is well worth reconsidering. I highly recommend checking it out. Another thing to consider is how poignant the message is. I know that back in the day, this was ham-fisted and it was simplistic, overly simplistic even, but when you're watching the movie nowadays, and once you sit through it and you deal with the relationship dynamic between Zooey Deschanel's character of Alma and Mark Wahlberg's character of Elliot, it's quite beautiful, and it's only recently that I've been able to appreciate that storyline aspect and the message as a whole, in that nature in her glory and majesty is basically infinitely powerful, and if it wanted to, it could just, you know, it's like that line in that Godzilla movie from like 2014, nature could shake us off like a bad case of fleas if she wanted to. So that's another thing to consider here. And overall, the movie is quite poignant. I loved Mark Wahlberg's performance in this one, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Add it to your list. It's well worth it. It's like barely 90 minutes long, so you can watch it in a day, no problem. And let me know in the comments below what your favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie is. And until the next video, my name is Marcel from Aussie Horror, and I'll catch you guys around.